There's a guy on that I'm going to bring on right now, and then I'm going to turn the reins over to you.
All right.
Who is I'll say checks all those boxes, but also just from a local standpoint, speaking as a Seattle guy about another Seattle guy. This guy he just does so much for the community, and the fact that he's still going strong, man. And I hope he keeps it going strong. I'm gonna bring him in, say hi, and then bye. Let you two talk. But Jamal Crawford is here, and Jamal, thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you being on, and just want to thank you.
No problem. That was a heck of an introduction. I'm not sure I can top that, but thank you for that. You must be from Seattle to say those kind things like that. So thank you.
Yeah, that's right, buddy. I'm going to let you guys talk it out, and I appreciate it, Kev. And we'll talk here in a few minutes. Thanks.
All right, Rick. I appreciate it. Good luck with the project. Jamal, how are you doing, man? You looking good?
Good. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm talking to you from Lake Chelan, Washington.
Joe Harris territory.
Joe Harris territory. He does a camp here every year. And obviously unable to do it this summer, but yeah, Joe Harris is a legend here, playing for the Chelan Goats.
Yes.
And a one-time player of the year here in the state of Washington as well. I wanted to talk to you about growing up in Seattle. What's your first memory of basketball in Seattle? I mean,
that's a good question. I remember seeing highlights of Jack Sikma and the white uniforms and downtown Freddie Brown and Gus, the Wizard, obviously, and just seeing highlights of those guys. And those were like my first Sonic memories. Yeah, and that was like,
because you're born in 1980, right? You're 40 years old. Yeah,
born in 1980.
Yeah.
So those were my first memories.
It's not too long after the championship till you're 3 or 4 years old or whatever, and you're So your first basketball hoop, was it a hanger on the door? Was it what was it?
That was exactly it. It was a hanger, and I used to play with socks. And every time we dunk and would bend the hanger, we had to get a new one, right? So that's when the iron hangers were in. And then when I got a Dr. J, you remember the Dr. J hoop? It had a yellow basketball and had his face on the backboard. Once I got that for Christmas, that was it. I was like, oh man, I got Dr. J, another pro and a great player, and you just felt like you were him trying to do all the dunks and all the layups. And so yeah, those were like my first early memories.
So your first organized basketball, how old are you?
I'm 8. And I remember I started playing basketball, football, and baseball at the same time. My mom put me in all 3. And I remember, you're 8 years old. You're like, all right, coach, like, okay, 2-line layups. And while the kids are doing 2-line layups, I'm going behind my back, doing like over the head, backwards reverse layups. And the kids are looking like, hold on, we're 8. You're not supposed to be doing that. And so that was like one of my first experiences, like, oh man, that was different, right, from the rest of what the kids were doing. But yeah, it was pretty cool experience.
So your mom was the motivator then with the basketball, the baseball, because she's driving you all the events, right?
Yeah, she drove me to all of them. Actually, I don't know if I ever told you this. My father played at the University of Oregon. He played with Kevin Love's dad, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so he was the first one to put a basketball in my hands, but she actually registered me and put me in all 3 at the same time, organized.
Now, are they both Seattleites, or did they move from somewhere else into Seattle?
Both moved from somewhere else. My mom moved from San Diego, and my dad was in Los Angeles.
So, yeah. What was the attraction to Seattle for them at the time?
My mom, my grandparents moved here, actually. And so when she was really young, she came up here. And then with my dad, he was playing basketball and, played all over, ended up going overseas, but he loved Seattle. So they met here. Yeah. And that's how I came about.
Fantastic. And you have never left, right?
Never left. Even when I was other places working and going to school and doing different things, I actually never left Seattle. It's always been home. No matter where I was, I had my watch set on Pacific Standard Time.
So going to Rainier Beach was eye-opening, huh? I mean, because that's a big-time basketball school before you got there, right? I mean, it had a legacy, it had a history.
Definitely. Doug Christie went there. They won a championship before. Coach Mike I knew because that same team I was playing for as an 8-year-old, he was coaching, I think, the 9 and 10-year-olds in the same community center. So we had scrimmaged against them, and they had beat up on us. So I knew him forever, you know. So all my friends that I went to South Shore with before I moved to Los Angeles ended up going to Rainier Beach. So it was a natural progression for me when I came back just to join my friends and go there.
Why? So why did you go to Michigan?
The Fab Five, to be honest with you, I was just enamored with the Fab Five, and I thought the way they changed college basketball with the baggy shorts and the Nikes and the ball heads and the swagger they played with, I wasn't sure we'd ever see 5 freshmen, you know, fresh out of high school going to a national championship game. So, you know, I didn't realize how cold it was at the time, but I just always wanted to go to Michigan. So I had the opportunity to and took advantage of it.
Was Fisher the coach at the time?
No, he was gone. He was at San Diego State.
Ah, okay.
So at that time, it was Brian Ellaby. He was right in the middle of Fisher and Amaker. So he was the coach right there in the middle. And that's when I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you were there, what, a year or 2?
A year, just a year.
And then on to the draft and the Chicago Bulls.
Chicago Bulls, a team I grew up admiring.
I was looking at that roster that first year. I counted 8 rookies on that roster.
Yeah. We were the youngest team in the league back-to-back years, and we had 8 picks that in my first year. We had 8 draft picks.
My God.
Unbelievable, right?
And Tim Floyd is the coach. And now, was that Tim's first year, or had he been there a couple of years?
He was there 1 year before I got there. So his first year was with Elton Brand and Ron Artest.
Wow.
Those were his 2 rookies. And then
Marcus
came in.
Then Marcus Pfizer came in that following year.
He was in my draft as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what's that like? Who's the mentor on that team? Because
it was the blind
taking you under his wing.
Yeah. It was the blind leading the blind. And I always say that, and I say it with, like, vets are so important, right? Like they've been through the struggles, the wars, know what to expect. And so for me, I didn't learn that being on time was really being an hour early. You know, being a professional, staying afterwards, working on your craft, dressing a certain way, and the way you carried yourself. And I didn't learn that until we got vets. We started getting Greg Anthony's and Kendall Gills and Jalen Rose and Charles Oakley and Rick Brunson and Scottie Pippen. And that's when I learned how to be a professional, you know, after my second year. And so vets are important in any situation, whether it be sports, whether it be commentating, broadcasting. You can work at Microsoft. If you have a vet who's been there, who wants to help you, that's kind of like the foundation for your career.
The Lakers were the world champions that your rookie year, and Allen Iverson was the MVP and the scoring champ. I mean, talk about the league a little bit as a whole when you came in your rookie year, because I mean, you think about Kobe, you think about Shaq, Allen Iverson. It's just there's so many styles of play now. I mean, Allen Iverson was just pound for pound, just a dominant player, just amazing.
Amazing. And you look how the game's changed, right? So at the time, remember at first, Allen got kind of criticized for being a point guard who liked to score. Yeah, well, that's the NBA game now, right? All the point guards are scoring. If you can't score as a point guard, they're looking at you like, I'm not so sure about you. So at that time, it was more positions. You were a point guard, you were a shooting guard, you were a small forward, and they kind of put you in that box. Now it's positionless basketball. You have 4 smalls and a guy who's not necessarily a big, but he's bigger than most guys, and he's playing center. You know, so the game has changed. It's evolved. Watching how the three-point shot has definitely become such a weapon and a necessity. Even a guy like Reggie Miller or Ray Allen, 2 of the greatest shooters ever, they may have took 6 threes on average for their career. I mean, in this league, they would take 16 threes a game. You know what I mean? So the game just changed and evolved. It's fun to be a part of and watch, but it's also been an evolution, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the thing that occurs to me is when the first time we got a chance to see him play in Seattle was just his elevation and the fact that he was so bold. He'd take it to the rim at that side. Just, I mean, take it up in traffic and try to throw on people.
Oh, he was unbelievable. He was fearless.
He was.
I remember the first time I matched up with Iverson, and it was when I really started getting like solid minutes, and I had 33 and 8, and we won the game. And I'm like, yeah, I played well against one of my heroes, and I look at the stat sheet. He has 42 and 8. He just kept attacking. He kept attacking and kept attacking. And he was fearless. And he was taking a beating. Like he just kept going. And, you know, then the league was so much more physical. And he just took a beating and kept going. And he's one of one. Like with his impact on basketball and the game and culture, he was unbelievable.
And Philadelphia makes the finals with a center from our area, came to us from Manitoba, played at University of Washington, Todd McCullough.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about an odd couple, but those two guys, it was amazing. You tell people McCullough had soft hands, terrific passer, was never out of position. And Allen Iverson trusted him implicitly.
He did. And Todd was so fundamentally sound. I remember he would have the hook shot over both hands. You know, watching him with D. Watts and that crew, and they had a great run in the tournament. But just Thalo Green and Chris Wilcock, like they had a nice squad. But Todd was always just unassuming, always in the right position. He was really talented. And like you said, Allen trusted him. That's for sure.
So the years in Chicago were it was a great introduction to the NBA. You're kind of learning on your own. You get the veterans around you finally. You get a chance to play with Jalen Rose, which had to be exciting since you emulated him anyway coming out of high school. And then after 4 years in Chicago, on to New York in a trade, and Lenny Wilkins is the coach with Isaiah Thomas as the executive. And you're playing with now a much older team. I was looking at that roster: Anthony Hardaway, Allen Houston, and Vin Baker, all 11-year pros.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an old team now.
And I think myself and Trevor Ariza may have been the two youngest guys on that roster, or amongst the youngest. You know what I mean? So I went from being on the youngest team to one of the older teams in the league. But by that point, I was already prepared to be a professional by the last 2 years in Chicago. So it definitely prepped me for New York.
Did you know Lenny before that, and just your being in the Seattle community and so forth, and them obviously?
Exactly. Just through community events and things that nature. Yeah. So you won't meet a better human being, period. You know, so getting a chance to play for Coach, and it was fun. It was so much fun. And people forget that first year we were going to the playoffs. We were, I think, first in our division until I had a toe injury in January, and I got hurt and I missed some time, and we kind of fell to the wayside a little bit. But I love playing for Coach. It was a lot of fun.
And then Larry Brown, he's let go, and then Larry Brown follows. And so here we go again in the cycle of coaches, and unfortunately just 23 wins that year. But you're playing with Stephon Marbury, your buddy Nate Robinson, Steve Francis is on the roster, and Jalen Rose.
And Jalen Rose again, right?
Let's talk about Marbury's game, because lightning first step, just gets into the air as quick as anybody, quick release, range. I mean, terrific player.
In this league right now, he would average 28 and 8. Like, it would be no problems whatsoever. Like, the stuff that he was doing then is what is put up on a pedestal now. That's what they want every point guard doing. He's one of the most talented players at any position I've ever played with. At the time, my first year, we were the second highest scoring backcourt in the league behind Gilbert Arenas and Larry Hughes. So he was a talent, all-star guy looked up to coming up, and he was just fearless, another fearless guy, strong, knew the game at such a high level. And it was interesting for him because he was playing at home at the time, right? So just so many different layers and dynamics there, but I love playing with Steph.
Yeah, and you think about those Minnesota teams when he and KG
and Garnett,
oh my goodness.
Oh, they could have been scary. They could have been scary good, for sure.
What happened there?
I'm not sure what happened, but to be honest, I think Steph got a little homesick.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't used to the cold and the
Coney
snow.
Island, New York. Yeah.
Yeah. And he wanted to get home, and he had the opportunity to, and he did. But you always wonder how that would have worked out if they would have stayed together.
Oh, those two cats were awesome. What about Steve Francis? Did he have at that time? I know he had lingering knee problems.
Right.
Did you get a sense for Francis in his game?
He would have moments where he would show, the old franchise from Houston, but it was just difficult because he was never really healthy the whole time. And so we didn't get a chance to all play together. There'd be some games we appear together, but we didn't really get a chance to play and grow and gel together. So that was difficult. But Steve has so much talent, so much talent.
Day in and day out, dealing with Larry Brown. What was Larry like to deal with as a?
He's the best. Well, let me do the flip side first. So at first you're like, man, he's always stopping the runs. He's always like teaching, right? And so he needs a team more than 1 year. He needs a team at least 2 years, because the first
Yeah.
year he's going to teach you and kind of break you down and to build you up. But once you get through that, it's like, he's the best teacher I've ever played for. Just teacher of the game, knows every nuance of the game. I remember, for example, we played Phoenix, and that's when Phoenix had 7 seconds or less with Steve Nash.
Yeah.
I remember in practice the day before, he said, we're going to walk it up every single time. We're only going to run if we get a steal or a block. And we're all looking around each other like, why would we do why would we do that? He's like, teams that want to run like that, you have to control the tempo. We played them the next night, we beat them in triple overtime. And they were much better than we were that year. So he's just such a teacher, and he was brilliant coach.
So Larry Brown in a long series is going to definitely come up with some sort of counter.
Without a doubt.
He's that kind of coach.
Without a doubt, for sure. I mean, when you look back and you see the Pistons beat the Lakers 4-1 or 4-2, I forgot what it was, but like after they won a couple games, you're like, okay, this can't last. It's the Lakers. They have GP, they have Kobe, they have Karl Malone, they have Shaq, and they beat him. Like he's a terrific coach.
So, and again, things don't remain the same in New York. Then Isaiah Thomas the following year with Mark Aguirre as the assistant coach. And you got a couple of guys, Zach Randolph and David Lee, you're playing with now.
Yeah, and we had to work Zach in with Eddie Curry because they were kind of similar.
Yep.
So we had 2 bigs that wanted to be inside, and that took some figuring out. But once we start figuring it out, the last year, Zach and I get traded the same day. At the time, that's when the Knicks were trying to get underneath the salary cap for that 2010 free agent class of LeBron, Wade, Bosh, Joe Johnson, all them. Me and Zach make the most on the team at the time. At the time, it was the best start in the last 10 years for the Knicks. We're like, we're both averaging 20 points. We're winning. We're going to make the playoffs. We'll both make All-Star. Boom, we get traded the same day.
That's tough because you haven't made the playoffs to this point. As a player, right?
I didn't want to be a guy who ran when things got tough. So I was there through all the tough times. I wanted to be there when things got good. And it felt like it was starting to get good, and then I got traded.
So, you played for D'Antoni for 11 games.
11 games, yep.
And then it's off again.
Off again. Now I'm going out west to Golden State with Don Nelson.
With Nelly and Monte Ellis, Steven Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Steph's not there yet, but he's coming the next year.
He's coming the next year.
And again, Monte Ellis falls in that other category of a guy that he could get you 25 on any given night, could distribute the ball, but primarily a point guard that was a scorer, right?
Absolutely.
That they wanted to
do it at a high level.
That they wanted to push and pigeonhole as a 2, but he's really a ball handling point. And another one of those guys.
Another one of those guys, right? And Monte's, they didn't know exactly how. Remember the moped incident that happened at the time, so they didn't know exactly how he was going to come back, and then how we were going to play together. We didn't get a chance to play. I think maybe 15 or 20 games together, and so I guess Nelly didn't think it would kind of work. He thought we were too similar. Mm-hmm. So, and this is Nelly ball. He plays small anyway, but he didn't think it would work. So now I'm shipped off to Atlanta, and this is when the 6th man starts.
And that's when you make the playoffs at the age of 29.
At 29, first time ever.
And you're playing with one of the truly fine gentlemen in the league and a hell of a coach. And I think you win 50-some games that year. Mike Woods.
We won 53 games that year.
Yeah.
We absolutely did. Yeah.
And Woody, just a fine guy. What kind of coach was Woody? Was he a player's coach?
He was absolutely a player's coach. He was fun to play for. He was a scorer. So that made it nice for me because when you're a scorer as a player, you don't hold the other things against guys who don't do other things. You're like, hey, go score the ball. And that's what he told me. He was like, I want you to lead the league off the bench and scoring. So that's what I did. I had never come off the bench before. I was still starting up until that point. And I did it. It kind of changed the way my career was viewed, going from that to a 6th man and then making the playoffs, which was the ultimate. So that was a lot of fun.
You've got Joe Johnson on the squad. Al Horford is on the squad. Mm-hmm. And for my money, one of the most entertaining players for me to watch and broadcast. Any time we would come to Atlanta, I had great respect for all of you guys. But Josh Smith was so much fun to watch.
Yeah,
jump out of the gym, shoot the 3, drive to the hole. This guy he had so many skills. What kind of guy was he?
Great guy. Always had a good time on or off the floor. Swiss Army knife. He could do a little bit of everything on the court.
Yes.
Right. He could block shots. He had 3-pointer. He'd go dunk on somebody. He'd make a nice assist. And so it was fun playing with all those guys. We had a lot of talent. And it was short-lived, but it was a lot of fun.
You're at Portland for a year, but let's talk about your Clipper days here. Jamal Crawford with us, and you're very gracious with your time and really appreciate it. But those Clipper days, I was looking at the 5-year run there, and the 14-15 season really stuck out because I was doing a lot of those games for ESPN Radio, and John Barry and we're doing the Western Conference semifinals following you guys. It's a 56-win year. That's the year the Clippers are up 3-1 on Houston. And yeah, I hate to bring it up, but I had forgotten how you just dominated them in games 3 and 4. You beat them by 25 and 33 points.
You know what, Kevin? Honestly, we thought that was the year to win the championship.
It was a heck of a squad.
Beat the Spurs, who had won the championship the season before. So we beat them in the first round, one of the better first-round matchups in history. And nobody wanted to play them that year. And we ended up beating them. So we're like, this is the year. Then we shoot out and get up 3-1 to Houston. And then that's when it just went all bad. Like, it went all bad. And we would have played Golden State the next round. And we had just beat them, I think, the year before in the playoffs when all the stuff happened with Sterling. So we felt really confident going in after we beat the Spurs. And it just wasn't meant to be.
So let's break that down a little bit. Some of the personnel. Chris Paul.
Yes. Unbelievable.
Give me the sketch on Chris Paul.
I'm not sure I've ever played with anybody that wants to win more. Gym rat, unbelievable competitor, as brilliant as they come in the game. First ballot Hall of Famer. A coach on the floor. He's driven. He's obsessed with the game. He's immersed in the game. He's, top shelf point guard for sure. One of the very best that's ever played.
Yeah, just incredibly tight handle. Just amazing.
Oh, yeah, incredible handle.
Blake Griffin.
Blake is his talent's off the charts. Like, the thing that shocked me most about Blake, to be honest with you, was he was such a hard worker, probably the hardest worker. And coming to the team, all you see is Blake on these commercials all the time. So I'm like, when do he have time to work out? Like, he's on every single commercial at that time.
Yeah.
And he was still the hardest worker. Unbelievable human being, driven. It was always driven as well. Could do some of everything on the court. If you go back and look at the numbers he put up against the Spurs, they were just incredible. Like, he was dominant. He dominated. I think he may average like 27, 11, and 6 or something. And he was just unbelievable.
Houston's got Harden, Ariza, Howard, Terrence Jones, and Jason Terry. Do you still hear about that series from Jason Terry?
Not from Jason Terry, but from everywhere else. Like, you guys are up 3-1. How do you lose that series, right? And that may be the one thing in my basketball life that I won't ever get over. So yeah, that was a tough one.
3-time sixth man of the year in 2009 with Atlanta, as you mentioned, and then the 2 years with the Los Angeles Clippers. Sixth man mentality. What's that about? How do you maintain that readiness?
Yeah, you have to have an impact, right? It may not be scoring every single night, but you're over there watching and you see what your team needs that particular night, and they need a jolt. And for me, I got to a point in my career, I was tired of being known as a good player on bad teams. Then I watched the Jason Terrys. I watched Manu Ginobili's. I watched Detlef. I watched all these guys, or Kevin McHale, all these guys over the course of my career, Ricky Pierce, and Vinny Microwave Johnson. And I was like, you know what? I'll do it. I'll embrace it. And you can still have an effect and still have a huge role in your team, even though you come off the bench. And so for me, like I said, it kind of gave the sixth man a different look, and it changed the course of my career for sure.
Well, you've had a great year. You're 40 years old. You had the one game with Brooklyn this year. What's in store for you in the upcoming NBA season?
Yeah, I'm training. I'm back healthy, preparing as if I'm going to play again this year. I didn't get a chance to really experience the full year, obviously, because I signed late and then got hurt. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And the one game I played, I only played 5 minutes. But in those 5 minutes, I had 5 points and 3 assists after not playing a game in 16 months against the number one team in the league at the time. So I'm excited to get the opportunity to get back out there.
And how tough is that? Because I witnessed Carmelo come back to Portland,
Yeah.
after he played the 11 games at Houston, and then is out the whole year, and then trains obviously that year, and then in the summer, and then comes back and like you, he looked great and had not missed a beat. It was just amazing to see him come back and play in that Portland situation where, you know, you're playing with Damian Lillard. Talk about Carmelo a little bit, obviously, but playing with a guy like, and I was about to say playing with a guy like Damian Lillard, because you really are playing for Damian Lillard. You don't want to let a guy like that down because his work ethic is through the roof. Great citizen, and his skills obviously are just off the chart.
For sure. I think I watched Portland more this year than any team in the league when I wasn't playing, because I was so happy for Carmelo, because being a fan of his, you know, through the game, and then being able to relate to exactly what he was going through sitting out that year. You know, so I watched it with a special interest. I texted him throughout the year when he got before he was playing, and then when he was playing as well. And I was so happy for him because he's a Hall of Famer, right? He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And some of the things that you hear from other people on the outside who don't know, hearing the dirt they were throwing his name was just disheartening. So I'm glad he got a second chance to be able to write the book he wants to write. And then that doesn't happen without Dame. I don't think he goes to Portland if Dame's not a full believer in CJ and what, you know, Melo brings to the table. And when your best player accepts you, I think everybody else kind of falls in line. And Dame did that. He made the transition very comfortable for Carmelo. And, you know, it's paid off. He's had great success there this year. And I hope to see him back there.
Now, if you're not playing basketball next year, and when you do finally decide that you're going to hang it up, will you get into broadcasting? Will you get into coaching? Or what's going to attract you later in life?
I think I would be around the game one way, shape, or form. I don't think it would be coaching at that level. I would enjoy coaching kids. That would be fun.
Oh, nice.
But I could see broadcasting or front office. I love putting teams together. I even do it at LA Fitness now. I play fake GM all the time. So, yeah, I think one of those two things would be the way for me, but definitely around the game.
Jamal, it's a real pleasure to spend time with you, man. We've just enjoyed your play, obviously, through the years, and your great work in the community as well. Keep it up, and thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. And every time I hear you, man, that's the voice. I think of the Sonics. You're the man. Thanks, Cal. I appreciate it.
Hopefully we'll get him back. All right, Jay Crossover, thanks, man. Appreciate it. There he goes. Jamal.